The River Bure moves silently through Coltishall, passing beneath a stone bridge that has carried travellers for centuries, from horse carts and farm wagons to modern cars. By day the crossing appears ordinary enough, yet after dark it carries an older reputation, shaped by stories of a huge black dog seen there. Those stories belong to one of East Anglia's most enduring legends, a creature said to appear briefly on lonely roads, then vanish before anyone reaches it. Across Norfolk and Suffolk, that spectral animal is known as Black Shuck, a name attached to centuries of reports describing a large, black, silent dog. The creature is usually encountered alone, often at night, and almost always on roads, paths, churchyards, bridges, or other places connected with crossing boundaries. What keeps the legend alive is not simply age, but the repeated similarity between accounts given by different witnesses, separated by distance, time, and circumstance. The word shuck is often linked to an old regional term meaning shaggy or rough-haired, fitting the dark, matted appearance most commonly described in folklore. Unlike hauntings fixed to one house or ruin, Black Shuck belongs to movement, appearing when someone is travelling between places rather than standing still. That detail matters because older traditions often place supernatural danger at moments of transition, when a person was neither safely arrived nor fully gone. Coltishall Bridge stands over the River Bure, in an old Norfolk village whose waterways and crossings once shaped trade, farming, and daily movement across the area. The approach roads narrow as they meet the bridge, with edges, trees, and water combining to create deep pockets of darkness after sunset and before dawn. Such landscapes do not prove legends true, but they help explain why certain places become fixed in memory as settings for unsettling encounters and lasting stories. Witness descriptions usually agree on the creature's size, often comparing it to a calf or unusually large dog rather than any ordinary village pet. Its coat is described as black enough to swallow light, leaving the body visible mainly as outline, mass, and movement against the pale surface of the road. Many accounts also mention eyes that seem red or fiery, seen only briefly before the animal turns away, crosses the bridge, or disappears altogether. Norfolk tradition does not always portray Black Shuck as openly violent, though older tales sometimes connect it to misfortune, death, or sudden terror. In many modern reports, the creature simply watches, walks beside the road, or stands silently ahead of the witness without barking, growling, or charging. That restraint often makes the experience stranger, because the encounter feels observed rather than attacked, as though the dog belongs there more than the traveller. Written references to black dog lore in East Anglia reach back several centuries, showing that the tradition existed long before cars, streetlights, or modern folklore books. Earlier travellers would have crossed bridges and lanes in near darkness, guided by moonlight, lanterns, and memory rather than clear signs or road markings. In those conditions, a brief sighting could carry enormous force, especially when later stories echoed the same features with unsettling consistency across generations. One famous chapter in the wider legend comes from the storm of August 1577, when reports from Bungay and Blythburgh described a terrifying black dog. According to those accounts, the creature entered churches during violent weather, leaving panic, scorch marks, and lasting fear behind among the congregation and surviving witnesses. Whether taken as history, embellishment, or warning tale, those stories helped root the Black Dog deeply within East Anglia's regional memory and imagination. Coltishall sightings are usually far quieter than the church legends, involving a solitary figure glimpsed on the bridge or road approaching it after nightfall. Drivers sometimes report slowing because they believe a large animal is standing directly ahead, fixed within the beam of approaching headlights and refusing to move. Then, at the point where impact or clear identification should follow, the shape is gone and the road lies empty again beneath them. Folklore often places uncanny encounters at boundaries, including bridges, crossroads, gateways, shorelines, and paths dividing one field, parish, or landscape from another. Coltishall Bridge fits that pattern closely, joining road to river, village to open country, and one side of the crossing to the other. In older belief, such places were never entirely neutral, because boundaries suggest passage, uncertainty, and the possibility of strange things crossing with you. Coltishall itself has medieval roots, and its bridge would have once served traders, labourers, neighbours, and strangers moving through Norfolk by necessity rather than curiosity. Before electric lighting, the crossing would have felt very different after sunset. With water below and darkness pressing close from both approaches and hedgerows. A figure standing silently on the bridge in those hours would not be forgotten easily, even if it were seen only once. The reported behaviour of the animal remains strikingly consistent across many retellings. Whether the witness is walking alone or approaching slowly in a vehicle, it does not usually rush forward, circle wildly, or behave like a frightened domestic dog caught unexpectedly in sudden light before startled witnesses. Instead, it appears composed, deliberate, and somehow detached, as though it is neither lost, threatened, nor surprised to be encountered there at all. The eyes remain one of the most repeated details in Black Shuck accounts, described as glowing red, ember-like, or unnaturally bright within darkness. That impression may be shaped by reflection, fear, headlights, and expectation, yet witnesses often insist the eyes were the first feature noticed. Only afterwards did the rest of the animal seem to gather around them, forming a heavy outline before fading away into darkness again. No verified physical evidence has ever settled the question of what people saw at Coltishall Bridge, or elsewhere in East Anglia at night. There are no confirmed remains, no documented tracks, and no identified animal repeatedly linked to the descriptions preserved in folklore and modern testimony. That absence keeps the legend balanced between story and experience, never proven, yet never fully dismissed by those who report encounters there. Modern reports tend to circulate quietly through conversation rather than formal records, which is common with experiences people fear may sound foolish or exaggerated. A driver might mention seeing a huge dog on the bridge, only for another local person to answer that they have heard similar stories. In that way, the legend survives naturally, carried by ordinary speech rather than official investigation, newspaper attention, or sensational publicity and performance. Some witnesses say the animal appears suddenly at the edge of the headlights, standing broadside for only a second before moving into darkness. Others describe it pacing the roadside hedge or crossing ahead with impossible speed, retreating from sight before they can stop safely or clearly. Whatever the variation, the encounter almost always ends too quickly for certainty, leaving memory alone to carry what evidence cannot provide afterwards. Folklorists are often interested in how stable the legend remains, because many supernatural traditions shift dramatically as they pass between generations and regions. Black Shuck changes less than most, keeping the same broad features of size, colour, silence, isolation, and appearance beside lonely routes at night. That continuity does not prove the creature exists, but it does show a regional tradition holding its shape with unusual strength over time. Different parts of East Anglia use different names, including Black Shuck, Old Shuck, and, more simply, the Black Dog of the Road. Yet the central image remains largely unchanged. An outsized dark animal, encountered alone, often at night, and gone before anyone can follow. Such consistency suggests not one isolated tale, but a shared body of folklore spreading gradually across villages, families, roads, and counties. Bridges recur often within ghost lore because they combine motion, vulnerability, and separation, forcing travellers through a confined crossing above dark water. At Coltishall, the bridge is neither wilderness nor fully sheltered village space, which may help explain its hold on local imagination. It feels transitional in the deepest sense, the kind of place where old stories naturally gather, settle, and refuse to leave. The River Bure beneath the bridge moves quietly, but at night the sound can seem louder when everything else has fallen still. Water, stone, hedgerow, and darkness create a setting where distance becomes harder to judge and shapes become easier to misread. Even so, repeated stories do more than describe confusion. They describe a specific presence, returning again and again to one crossing. People sometimes visit Coltishall hoping for a sighting, yet legends of this kind rarely oblige those who arrive ready and waiting for one. Most reported encounters happen during ordinary journeys, when attention is elsewhere and the witness has no intention of seeing anything remarkable at all. The pattern strengthens the folklore, because it frames the appearance as an intrusion rather than performance, something met by chance rather than hunted. Those who believe they saw the animal often stress how normal the moment felt immediately beforehand, with nothing dramatic in the weather or road. Then the shape appears ahead, large enough to demand attention, yet still difficult to understand in the fraction of time available there. By the time the witness reaches the place where it stood, the bridge or lane has become empty once more. Skeptical explanations remain possible, including misidentified dogs, distorted perception, poor light, suggestibility, and the powerful influence of existing local legend. Yet folklore rarely survives for centuries on explanation alone. It survives because certain places continue producing experiences people struggle to forget. Coltishall Bridge belongs to that category, where story and setting reinforce one another until each seems to confirm the other. In daylight, the bridge is a practical village crossing, with traffic passing over it and the river moving quietly below without ceremony. Nothing in the stonework announces a haunting, and nothing in the road warns drivers that folklore has claimed this particular spot. Still, once darkness gathers and the approaches fall silent, the place seems able to carry older possibilities without visible effort or warning. Perhaps Black Shuck is only folklore attached to landscape, weather, memory, and the human tendency to shape fear into recognizable figure. Perhaps, instead, the legend endures because some encounters resist easy explanation and leave witnesses convinced they cross paths with something older. Either way, Coltishall Bridge remains one of those places where travellers still look ahead carefully before entering the dark and crossing alone.